Hello everyone, welcome back to Atreyu Crochet. So I'm excited because today I'm starting a new series called Crochet with Diagrams. I'm sure many of you have probably seen these weird symbols in crochet and wondered what it all means and how to actually use it. So I'm creating this series to one, teach you what the symbols mean, and then two, how to actually read these symbols in a diagram, in a crochet pattern diagram. I'm going to start out by going over 6 basic symbols and describing what each one actually stands for and means. And then at the end of the video, we're going to actually look at one of these crochet pattern diagrams, which will of course be composed of these symbols that we learned earlier in the video, and we're going to follow one and crochet something. So if this all sounds good to you, then keep watching. So let's begin. The first is this symbol, and it's sort of this oval shaped symbol, kind of like an egg maybe turned on its side. Whenever you see that symbol, that means chain. It symbolizes the chain stitch. And if you're actually reading a pattern that is written out, oftentimes you will see the abbreviation CH, which also stands for chain. Okay? The next stitch that we're going to look at is the slip stitch, which is denoted by just a little black dot or a solid dot. Okay? And it's a circle. It's not an oval. Once again, this is the slip stitch. And if you see it written out in the pattern, oftentimes the abbreviation will be SL space ST. Okay? The third crochet symbol that we're going to look at is the single crochet. Now, you will sometimes see the single crochet, the symbol for it, as a plus sign, but then also you might see it as an X. Okay? Both of those stand for the single crochet. And once again, if you see it written out in a pattern, you will most likely see the abbreviation SC for single crochet. Okay? So the oval shape is the chain, CH. The dot stands for the slip stitch, SL space ST, slip stitch. And then the plus or the X, either one, stands for single crochet, SC, single crochet. Moving on to the next and final 3 symbols that we're going to be learning and working with today. We have this symbol. It's like a T, okay? So just a horizontal line with a longer vertical line. And that symbolizes the half double crochet. If you see that written out in the pattern, most likely it will be abbreviated with the 3 letters HDC, half double crochet. Moving on to the double crochet, its symbol is that same T, so horizontal line with an elongated vertical line, but now it has a slash. Just one slash. You might be thinking double, because it's double, it's going to have 2 slashes, but 2 slashes stands for something else. So just a T with a slash, that stands for the double crochet. Its abbreviation is DC, double crochet. And then the third one is the T with the 2 slashes there, and that stands for treble crochet. Its abbreviation TR, so just taking the first 2 letters of treble. Now you might hear someone erroneously say triple crochet because they're thinking, well, double crochet, so what comes after double, triple? So what they mean is the treble crochet. Okay? I think I've made that mistake several times myself. So, all right. So now that you've learned 6 symbols, you've learned the symbol for the chain stitch, the slip stitch, the single crochet, the half double crochet, the double crochet, and the treble crochet. Let's look at a crochet pattern diagram using these symbols. All right. So here is our crochet diagram with symbols, of course. And you'll notice that at the top I've included a little cheat sheet just to remind you of what each symbol means. I use the abbreviations so that you can get used to seeing those, and because it just takes up less room. So just remember that the oval shape stands for the chain stitch, the dot stands for the slip stitch, the plus or X, they both can stand for the single crochet. The T stands for the half double crochet, HDC. The T with 1 slash stands for the double crochet, DC. And the T with 2 slashes stands for the treble crochet. Okay? So now let's look at this crochet pattern diagram. Notice where the start is. Okay, so it's right there. So that's where you're starting. And then we have the sequence of chains. I've numbered them out so that you could easily tell that you chained 11, but normally the numbers won't be there, but you can just easily count how many, right? Okay, so I chained out 11. And then I crocheted in the 10th chain, okay? Another way of looking at this is, so you start here, you crochet, crochet, crochet out 11 chains, and then you put your first stitch in the 1, 2 second chain from the crochet hook, okay? What stitch is that? Well, remember the plus or the X, they both stand for the single crochet. So I decided to use plus for this diagram. So I know that I put a single crochet in the second chain from the crochet hook or in that 10th chain. Okay, so that one chain, the 11th chain, I skipped that and I put a single crochet into the next chain. And then on across, I just continued to put single crochets. Okay, and that's row 1. Now we turn our work, and that's why I changed the marker color to blue. Okay, so now I'm on row 2. Notice the first thing that I did was chain 2. Okay, then in that very same stitch that I chained 2 out of, I put a half double crochet. Remember, the T with no slashes stands for a half double crochet. So you clearly see the chain 2, or the 2 chains coming out of that single crochet, and then you see that that half double crochet is also going into that same single crochet. And then I just put 1 half double crochet into each single crochet across. Notice over here where that chain 1 is, there is no half double crochet. Okay, so the last half double crochet for row 2 occurs in the final single crochet of the row, and I skip that chain 1 that's there. Moving on to row 3. Okay, so I'm looking at the front side again, as is indicated by the black marker, that color. Okay, so I changed back to the black. That lets you know that you're looking at the front of your work. I chained 2, so these are 2 chains, so 1, 2, and then I put a double crochet. It's a double crochet because it's just a T with 1 slash, see? So I put a double crochet into that same half double crochet that these 2 chains came up and out of. Okay, so turned my work and I chained 2, and then I put that double crochet into that very first stitch of row 3, okay, which happened to be the last stitch of row 2. And then I just put 1 double crochet into each half double crochet across. Notice once again at the end of row 3, I don't put a stitch into that chain 2. Okay, the last double crochet occurs in the last half double crochet of row 2. Then moving on, let's get a little bit closer so that you can see. Okay, row 4. So I turn my work, and it's in blue again because I'm looking at the back side. So turn my work, chain 2, and then I put my treble crochet into that same stitch that that half double crochet is in. And then I put my treble crochets into each of the stitches across. Once again, I don't mess with that chain 2 of the previous row, of row 3, okay? My last treble crochet goes into the last double crochet of row 3, okay? Now, finally, with row 5, I turn my work, chain 1, okay, and then those are the dots, the slip stitches. So I chain 1 and then I slip stitch into that same treble crochet, that same stitch that that chain 1 is coming out of, and I just slip stitch across. Once again, not slip stitching into the chain 2 there. My final slip stitch occurs in the final treble crochet of row 4. So notice there's no black dot over the 2 chains there, right? That's the last one. Okay, so hopefully this makes sense. We start here, we chain out, we skip a chain, skipping that 11th chain, and we crochet single crochets, starting with the 2nd chain from the hook across. That's row 1. Row 2, we turn our work, chain 2, put our first half double crochet in the first stitch, so we don't skip a stitch, it's in the same stitch, and then we put half double crochets across. We don't put a half double crochet in that chain 1 there. Then we chain 2, put our first double crochet into the same stitch that the chain 2 is coming out of. Then we put double crochets in 1 in every stitch across. We don't put a double crochet into that chain 2, okay? Turn our work, chain 2, put our treble crochet into the same stitch, and then put treble crochets across, 1 in every stitch. And then the last one goes into the last double crochet of the previous row. Once again, we don't try to put a treble crochet into the chains at the end. And then finally, turn our work, chain 1, put our first slip stitch in that very first same stitch, and then we put slip stitches 1 in every stitch across. Once again, not messing with that chain 2 on the edge. Alright, you guys, so you ready to crochet this out? Let's do it. So we start out with the slip knot, not to be confused with the slip stitch, which a lot of us accidentally interchangeably use when we're talking. But yeah, this is not the SLST, this is a slip knot. So you just wrap like that. So the slip knot is not in the diagram, okay? Just want to make that very clear. Alright, so now we chain 11. Remember the 11 chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay? So remember over here, this is where you see the start. And then this, we crocheted across. And now we have the 10th 11th chain. Remember, we're going to crochet in the 10th chain or the 2nd chain from the crochet hook now. What stitch are we going to use? The single crochet. So going into that 10th chain or the 2nd chain from the hook, we're going to insert our hook without yarning over first because it's just a single crochet. Yarn over, pull through to the front, 2 loops, yarn over, go through 2. Now we're going to just put 1 single crochet into every chain below, okay? Every chain across. Just going into the chain, yarning over, pulling through to the front, having 2 loops, yarning over, and going through 2. I will meet you at the end of this row, which is row 1. Alright, so that is row 1. Now we're going to turn our work and chain 2. 1, 2, and now we're on row 2. Remember, row 2 is in blue. And so remember that we're moving on to the half double crochet, but we're going to put our first half double crochet into the same stitch that that chain 2 is coming out of. So that very first same stitch, that's where we're going to put our half double crochet. So to make the half double crochet, you yarn over like I just did, and we go into this very first stitch. It's going to be just like that for every row, okay? And with the half double crochet, you just go through all 3 loops, okay? I almost made a double crochet. I don't know if you saw that. Alright, so now we're going to just continue putting 1 half double crochet in every stitch across because that's what the diagram tells us to do. So yarn over, go into the stitch, yarn over, pull through to the front, 3 loops, yarn over, go through all 3 loops. Okay, next stitch is here, yarn over, go into the stitch like that, yarn over, pull through to the front, 3 loops, yarn over, go through all 3 loops. Okay, continue making half double crochets, 1 in every stitch below, and I'll meet you at the end of this row, which is row 2. Alright, I am at the end of this row, and just as the diagram told me to do, notice my last half double crochet went into the last single crochet of the previous row. Okay, there's that chain 1 that my diagram tells me not to mess with, so I'm not going to mess with it. But do know that I'm not decreasing the number of stitches. Why? Because at this end I put my first half double crochet in that very first stitch, so it's going to end up working out in the end. Okay, alright, moving on to row 3, we turn our work. In row 3, the diagram tells us to chain 2, 1, 2, and then it also tells us to put our first double crochet into the very same stitch. So this is the first stitch right there that chain 2 is coming out of. That's where we're going to put our double crochet, right into that very first same stitch. Okay, and with the double crochet, we yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. Now we can move on to the second stitch. Yarn over, into the stitch, yarn over, pull through to the front, 3 loops, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. One more, yarn over, into the stitch, yarn over, pull through to the front. Just want you to see that. Yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. Okay. Continue putting double crochets in each of the half double crochets across, and I'll meet you at this stitch. Okay, so I am at the end of this row, and I just wanted to show you that I have this one half double crochet there and then that chain 2 at the end. So I'm going to put my final double crochet into this half double crochet there, yarn over, pull through to the front, 3 loops, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2, and the diagram tells me not to mess with the chain 2, so I'm going to leave that chain 2 alone. Now I am going to turn my work and chain 2. Okay, so 1, 2. So I've chained 2 and I'm now on row 4. Now I have to make a treble crochet. So instead of wrapping or yarning over one time like we did for the double crochet and the half double crochet, we're going to yarn over twice. Okay, so yarn over, yarn over. Now the diagram, the crochet diagram, tells me to enter that same stitch that this is chain 2 is coming out of, that very first stitch. So that's where I'm going to put my first treble crochet. Just go into the top of it like that. Yarn over, pull through to the front. Now I have 4 loops. Okay, so I have an extra loop since I yarned over twice before entering the stitch. Yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. Okay, so the yarn over, go through 2, we have to do 3 times instead of 2. I have to do it 3 times for the treble crochet instead of 2 times with the double crochet. Alright, let's do another one. Yarn over twice, 1, 2, enter the stitch, yarn over, pull through to the front, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2, and yarn over, go through 2. Yarn over, go back into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through to the front, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2, and yarn over, go through 2. Okay, so these are treble crochets. Okay, and I just realized that the diagram says chain 2 there, but normally you would chain 3 for a treble crochet. Basically, when you're chaining, you're trying to get it to the height of the stitch that you're going to be using. So I am going to go back and tear this out, chain 3. I'll change the diagram just because I'm a perfectionist like that. And then I am going to do exactly the same thing and then meet you at the end of this row, which is row 4. See you there. So see there how I only have 2 chains? It should be 3 chains, and even the diagram is telling me it should be 3 chains because the 2 chains that I made, they don't get me up to the height of that treble crochet. So just add a third chain there. Okay. So when you start row 4, chain 3. If you've already done that part, which you probably have, you can just leave the chain 2 for now. But just know that you usually use 3 chains for the treble crochet. Alright, now that that's corrected, let's move on. Okay, so we're at the end of this row. My final treble crochet went into the final double crochet of the previous row, and I did not mess with that chain 2 there. So now I need to turn my work, and for row 5 it says to chain 1. So I chained 1, and into that same stitch, so this stitch right here, I'm going to slip stitch. So the slip stitch is just entering the stitch like that. So go in there like that, yarn over, and pull all the way through. So 1 slip stitch in every stitch. Moving on to the next stitch, that's this one. So I just insert my crochet hook, yarn over, and pull all the way through. So the slip stitch is kind of like a single crochet in the sense that you don't yarn over before entering the stitch. You yarn over and pull through to the front. But instead of yarning over and going through 2, you just don't yarn over and just go all the way through. And I made a rhyme unintentionally, so just slip stitch into every stitch across. This is the next stitch, enter it like that, yarn over, pull all the way through. Enter the stitch, yarn over, pull all the way through. Enter the stitch, yarn over, and pull all the way through. Enter the stitch, yarn over, pull all the way through. Enter the stitch, yarn over, pull all the way through. And the final one, enter the stitch, yarn over, and pull all the way through. Now our diagram says that that's the final slip stitch. Okay, so we don't slip stitch into the chain 3. So at this point we can chain 1, cut our yarn, and pull through like that. Okay, and this is what you have now. Okay, so row 1 was single crochets, row 2 was half double crochets, row 3 was double crochets, row 4 was treble crochets, and row 5 was the slip stitch. So hopefully you have a better understanding of crochet diagrams. And yeah, we've learned 6 symbols. So any diagrams that utilize those 6 symbols, you know what they mean. Okay, remember it's the chain stitch, the slip stitch, the single crochet, the half double crochet, the double crochet, and the treble crochet. And in the next video, I'm going to be moving on to some more symbols, and it will be accompanied by another pattern for you to practice at the end of that video, just like this one. Okay, that is it for this video. You know, I'll see you in the next one. In the meantime, happy crocheting.